Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Enoch Basilio. I'm going to be your host. I am a PhD candidate in Energy Resources and Engineering at KAUST, and I am also currently serving as the president of Students for Sustainability here at KAUST. So at the Students for Sustainability, our mission is to promote transformative change towards sustainability within the student community, and we are dedicated to fostering a sense of responsibility and awareness among the students. So I am honored to welcome you to another version of the Sustainability Seminar Series, which aims to serve as a platform to enhance scientific and community engagement regarding the intricacies of sustainability topics. This initiative was initially launched with the support of the head of the Office of Sustainability at KAUST, Dr. Ana Costa, and the Office of Student Life. In this regard, we are honored and delighted of hosting today to Ms. Yara Sindi, who is the head of Data and Research Department at Ministry of Economy and Planning in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She will discuss with us today about transforming the Vision 2030 into action and how the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is committed towards meeting the objectives of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So just to give you a glance of Ms. Yara's background, is that with over a decade of expertise in strategy, business development, and policy formulation, Ms. Sindi serves as the General Manager of Monitoring and Reporting for Sustainable Development at the Saudi Ministry of Economy and Planning. And in this pivotal role, she ensures the alignment of policies with sustainable development principles and meticulously monitors and reports progress. Also, Ms. Yara led the creation of the second Voluntary National Review Report on Saudi Arabia's Sustainable Development Journey, engaging 100 national and international stakeholders and producing 200 case studies. Thank you so much, Ms. Yara, for being with us today. The floor, or well, the screen is now yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. I hope that we engage in a fruitful discussion, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you as well, your feedback on what I'm about to present. I'm very excited to share a little bit of the overview of what has been happening in the kingdom and how is the SDGs aligned with the Vision 2030, and how are we really translating these high-level goals into actionable initiatives that are happening on ground. So if you allow me, I'll start maybe projecting the presentation to take you through this fruitful overview. As you know, I'm very honored again to be here with you today and to really talk to the future pioneers of sustainability and to share or to get engaged into this dialogue where we're not just shaping the narrative of sustainability in the kingdom, we're actually taking it into action. So the kingdom is really committed to sustainable development and is not only committed through large objectives, but as I mentioned, in technical initiatives that are happening on ground. Let me start by, I wanted to first of all highlight what is sustainability, where was it initiated from, and how did it transform into this 17 developmental goals that are being discussed globally today. So as you know, sustainability, it in essence, it is the art of taking only what we need today so that our children and their children can have what they need tomorrow. It's a principle that transcends time and borders, and it's really at the heart of human creativity and responsibility to ensure that we're not overusing our resources and making sure that we're thinking on a long-term perspective. And basically, these discussions started back in 1987, where Brundtland report defined the meaning of sustainable development. And what it mentions is that the development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I'm sure that you're going to be hearing this throughout any global discussion. So the SDGs were really born based on the urgent need for a global partnership to address this multifaceted challenges that we face today in our world. These challenges such as poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. So in 2015, all UN member states adopted this universal call to action as part of the new Sustainable Development Agenda, which aims to achieve the 17 goals by 2030. So there are 17 goals in total, and each of them has a set of targets and a set of indicators to ensure a holistic approach to the world's most pressing issues. They are integrated in nature, that is, that they recognize actions in one area will affect others, either positively or negatively. So the way that we need to approach this agenda is in a balanced manner, with policy coherence to ensure that there is more synergies rather than trade-offs between the actions that we take today. And they tackle multiple issues, from ending hunger, ensuring clean water and sanitation, from also reducing inequality within and among countries to build the resilience infrastructure. The SDGs are designed not as a separate silo, but as an interconnected web, which makes it a complex agenda for countries to really adopt. But I believe there are multiple tools out there that was provided by the UN organizations and other international organizations on how to think in this interlinked approach. How do we ensure that there is much more synergies rather than trade-offs? And I will take you through some of the efforts that have been taken place and how they resulted in multiple initiatives that we see today on ground. So they're more of they're not just objectives, they're actually a vision that government, businesses, civil society, and the general public can really rally behind. So it has a broader list of stakeholders that need to contribute, because we cannot leave anyone behind, and each individual has a key role to play within the achievement of these goals. So the SDGs are a call to action for everyone of us in the country and the world to make sure that we're building a better future for all. And of course, since the adoption of these global goals, other also commitments on a global level and a national level, from commitments, from agreements that were put in place to further commit to ensuring that we're meeting the targets that we have set within this global agenda. And a few I can present here as an example, which is the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement started also back in 2015, and it's forged based on our commitment to limiting global warming. And Saudi Arabia is aligned with this holistic approach, and it also pledged to curb emissions and invest in clean energy sources. And as you know, Vision 2030 has also came to place, where we made bold commitments around multiple areas. It's a strategic framework that has been set to diversify our economy, develop the public sector, and ensure that we are elevating our society to really meet the needs of the future. It is a vision that recognizes the transformative power of sustainable development and positions the kingdom as a leader in this global endeavor. So Vision 2030 is our roadmap to our prosperous future, where sustainability is not an option, it's the foundation of our growth. And as you can see with the Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, which is supporting our global leadership and the commitment of sustainability. And as you know, basically the Saudi Green Initiative aims to plant 10 billion trees within the kingdom to reduce carbon emissions and combat the desertification. We also have committed to net zero emission by 2060, and we've set this course to reach the net zero by 2060 as a commitment that echoes through the vast expanse of our desert and the breadth of our seas. The ambition goal underscores our readiness to join hands with the global community in the battle against climate change. And also to shed some light on, so what are the most important pressing issues that are out there that this global agenda is trying to address? And how urgent is it? And why is it important for Saudi Arabia? So as you know, I would like to, of course, start with climate change and the climate issues that we face today. We are currently on track for a global temperature rise of 2 degrees Celsius above per-industrial levels within the century. This seemingly is a small number, belies catastrophic consequences and increase the frequency of extreme weather events. It's also significant in the rise of sea levels and profound impacts on biodiversity, agriculture, and human health. And as you can see how this one issue can also impact multiple dimensions within the goals. So it's not only about the environment, it's about also our societies, our health, and our well-being. So not only when it comes to climate change and all these critical issues, but biodiversity is a critical challenge that we need to also address. As you know, the Biodiversity and Ecosystem Service warns us that around 1 million animal and plant species are now threatened with extinction, many within decades, more than ever before in human history. The rate of species extinction is accelerating, with grave impacts of people around the world now likely. The very web of life that sustains us is being unraveled at an unprecedented rate. The lost biodiversity undermines the ability of nature to provide us, be it the form of pollination for our crops, clean air, fresh water, and regulations of our climate. And finally, from a social aspect as well, human and education to human is very important and critical to ensure that there is economic growth and there is prosperity in the way that we live. And this poses a profound challenge to sustainable development. At this moment, over 260 million children and youth are out of school, and this is according to the UNESCO. And millions are not receiving a good quality education, and countries are failing to equip them with the skills that they need to build a successful future. So the gap is going to impact poverty and hinder the economic growth, innovation, and the resilience that we face in the global challenge. So these critical challenges are happening around the world, but it also translates in where we are in the kingdom today. As we are part of this world, there are some challenges around these multiple dimensions that we still need to further accelerate progress on. So the kingdom is on point of transformative change. With a growing youth population, over 50% of our citizens and under 25 years old. This demographic shift brings with its pressing demand for employment, education, and meaningful engagement. So the challenge here is not only to provide education, but to also ensure that such education is geared towards sustainability, creating a workforce that is environmentally conscious and adept at navigating the challenges of our 21st century. From an economical perspective, the challenge is also well known. Our economy's livelihood has been our vast oil reserves, a resource that has fueled our growth, but also threatened us to volatile global oil market. The urgent need to economic diversification is clear. As we transition toward renewable energies and seek to stabilize our economy against this flow of oil prices, the economic transformation must be managed carefully to be maintained and stable for our prosperous future and our citizens. Finally, the environmental dimensions. As you know, we're a country that is in an arid climate. We have a vast desert, and one of the most pressing issues is water scarcity. We are one of the top or most water scarce countries in the world, with less than 100 cubic meters of renewable water resources per person per year. And it also impacts our sea, like the Red Sea and multiple other dimensions. While teeming with life, we are also under threat for overfishing and pollution. So these challenges were taken into perspective, and therefore Vision 2030 came to place to really think about addressing the way that we're transforming into this new world of where we are or where we want to head. And the government is taking it with a high commitment and high level from the center of government commitment to ensure sustainability, and also bringing in the right stakeholders to take the right actions to move forward. So the Vision 2030 has reshaped the way that we are. It is our ambitious blueprint to harness our strength and realize our immense potential for our future, for our national future. So in shaping this, the foundation of the Vision 2030 is a comprehensive framework, as I mentioned, and it's really our direction to where we need to be. So if you wanted to delve deeper into the major objectives within Vision 2030 that contribute directly to sustainability, first, the Renewable Energy Project, an initiative that targets the generation of 50% of Kingdom's energy from renewables by 2030. This is a transformative step, not just for energy sector, but for the global environment. We are harnessing the power of the sun so we can ensure that we're utilizing the proper resources and the right technologies to address the climate issues that we face today and power our generations to come. We also have the power not only from the sun, but the wind, and there's multiple projects that are happening on ground that will ensure that it does not come at cost of our next generations. Similarly to the Saudi Green Initiative, it is a large initiative that is very important, and it aims to reducing these emissions by 4% of global contribution, a target that stands as a testament to our recognition of the climate crisis and the role in combating climate change. These initiatives are not only reducing our carbon footprint, but also protecting and revitalizing our ecosystem and biodiversity. It also recognized, Vision 2030 is recognized as a standalone goal, but a fundamental principle that must be targeted at all different dimensions. So from an environmental perspective, as well as a social and economical perspective. We are diversifying our economy by ensuring we're targeting the right sectors for the future, where there's multiple plans that are presented within Vision 2030 that can be also mentioned later on. And we want to make sure that our ambitious nation are part of this contribution. Women empowerment is key. Participation in the labor force, unemployment is important. The youth contribution is also important. And there are clear set goals that are underlined within the vision that contribute to these specific targets that are set by the agenda. 84% of the Vision 2030 is already aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So in terms of goal and objective, we see a strong commitment. It's just a matter of how are we really translating it. And as you can see, these initiatives are taking place today that will contribute heavily to improve our sustainability within the kingdom. And to also, as the SDGs includes a variety types of stakeholders, this requires an orchestrator, an institutional mechanism to ensure that we're bringing in the right stakeholders to achieve these specific objectives. And one of the major commitments or actions that also took place is the establishment of the Sustainable Development Steering Committee. The steering committee contributes to empower, enable, and ensure that we're providing the right policies through the membership of 20 government entities. These 20 government entities sit on the steering committee and each play a key role in the regulations and the policies that are set in the kingdom today. So they're a key contributor to shaping the way that we want to move ahead with sustainability. And it also backed up by an advisory board where we bring in experts to facilitate these discussions. from the academia, international organizations, the private sector, the ministries and authorities that are not part of the steering committee, to make sure that we're taking multiple perspectives into account. And this committee is responsible to monitor the agenda. It's hosted in the Ministry of Economy and Planning and headed by His Excellency, the Minister of Economy and Planning, where we really work on a technical level by three main pillars, or three different areas, let's say, that sits under the steering committee. One is the policy development. So we really need to make sure that we're analyzing where we stand against each of these goals on the SDGs in alignment with Vision 2030, highlight what are the major gaps that we need to focus on moving forward. We actually did this assessment on all 17 goals with the technical members or the technical teams from different ministries and different types of stakeholders, and not only the public sector, to understand the current landscape. And we were able to highlight around 150 new recommendations, action-oriented initiatives and projects that are really coming our way to ensure that we're addressing these specific gaps. So the policy development teams work with a policy framework that we have set to first understand the urgency of each of these goals on a national level, and how do they meet the targets and objectives that are set by the global agenda? What are the major gaps that we face? And then how can we bring in the right stakeholders, the data that is important to feed into policy making, and come up finally with a set of recommendations that are action-oriented, that requires to take place. The second pillar is the monitoring and reporting. As you may know, we already have a lot of efforts today on a national level around sustainability. But how do we translate what we do on a national level to a global level to ensure that we're, first of all, spreading awareness on the kingdom's efforts towards sustainability? We're improving our performance on multiple global indices, and we're reporting accurately on the data that needs to be publicly available for the purposes of transparency and also to understand our current situation. And similarly, the Voluntary National Review, where we presented the current efforts of the kingdom. Again, not only the public sector, all types of stakeholders contributed to this effort. The final pillar that we work on, which is the strategic enablers. And this group of enablers are very important to facilitate the implementation of the goals. So the agenda of SDGs has process-oriented targets as well as outcome-oriented targets. And enablement or means of implementations are a key contributor to ensure that we're actually implementing. We're providing the right smart tools. We're providing the right technologies that are building our future. And there are four main types of enablers: the communication, where we need to ensure that we're spreading awareness on the importance of sustainability nationally and globally, and specific topics that are underlined within the agenda. So for example, the health perspective, the women empowerment, the climate change issues. So how do we make sure and how do we bring on board everyone? We do it through communication. We try to simplify this complex agenda and translate it on a national level, and also translate nationally what we do to the global level, so everyone can be aware of the current efforts. The second is capacity building. Education is important, and as the world is changing today, there's a need for this new set of skills that we need to introduce to the market. Where is the future? What are the major gaps that are required for building capacity, like sustainable policy development? Maybe we lack within the government the right capacities. However, we built a program that supports government entities to work on policy development programs, in specific to ensure the policy coherence aspect is being mainstreamed, and the SDG agenda fully is being mainstreamed into the agenda of each ministry. Financing for sustainable development. We've done multiple projects. We need to put a framework on what are the sustainable green projects that we need to invest in. How do we empower entrepreneurs? How do we empower the private sector? And vice versa, public-private partnerships as well, to feed in the right financing tools and mechanisms, issuing green bonds, green sukuk, that also supports in financing SDGs and sustainable development in the kingdom. And finally, science, technology, and innovation. Research, science, development, and innovation are a critical aspect. And we've done multiple projects where we engage with the youth and entrepreneurs to provide us with solutions that are actually taking place today, like smart agriculture or smart farming innovation tools that we're actually working on piloting within the kingdom, as it is also a critical challenge. So this is in a nutshell the way that we manage the SDGs in the kingdom, and how do we translate the global agenda into action-oriented through stakeholder engagement, and through these three main pillars that really anchors the way that we develop our roadmap for sustainable development. And speaking of roadmap, we did build a roadmap based on the challenges that we have identified through these pillars. Any successful country that has been managing the SDG file has 6 key success factors, which is the political commitment, prioritization and adaptation, sustainability integration, policy planning and coherence, a whole of society approach, and monitoring and reporting. These 6 dimensions are key to ensure that we're achieving the SDGs, and they need to be part of any management mechanism that we put in place to address sustainable development goals in a coherent way. And through these 6 dimensions or 6 key factors, we were able to define the way that we want to approach our roadmap. And therefore, as you can see, similarly to the working groups, to the technical working groups that we have under our steering committee, we presented our roadmap for achieving SDGs up until 2030. Of course, this roadmap is up to revision by the year of 2025, just as a checkpoint to how far are we and where do we need to go from there. And we asked ourselves key questions against each of these pillars to be able to understand how can we contribute better to achieving the SDGs. We really aim through our roadmap to achieve multiple things. We want a long-lasting, inclusive, well-being society, and we want it through increase the average life expectancy to 80 years, the well-being of all our citizens by ensuring that we're providing them with the basic and access to healthcare services and basic needs as humans, and achieve 100% universal health coverage. These targets are taken exactly from the Vision 2030. So I just wanted to show you a complementary effect of what we do in terms of translating the SDG agenda, and how does the Vision 2030 aim to support and achieving sustainability within the kingdom through these targeted objectives that we have today. So as I mentioned, the second thing is how can we empower and innovate and ensure that there is quality education in our kingdom. We want to increase the women participation in the workforce, and we want to ensure that we're improving on our e-government survey index, which is supporting us in becoming from the top 5 nations within this specific index. Of course, this is a non-inclusive list. There's multiple key targets that we aim to achieve. However, I wanted to shed light some of the most important ones that we really look at and how our roadmap translate into achieving the Vision 2030 objective through the sustainability lens. The environmental dimension, of course, is a key aspect, and through the environmental dimension, we want to ensure that we're increasing FDI within the kingdom by 30% as it contributes to investment. So the more the country is sustainable, the more attractive and competitive we come. The more flow of investments can also generate to the kingdom. We want to increase our global soft power index. And as you know as well, there's this perception that Saudi Arabia is not being sustainable because of our reliance on oil. But I think throughout the past years and through the Vision 2030, we were able to fix that perception. And we not only fixed it through words or soft power, we fixed it through taking action and showing our commitment on ground. Sustainable cities, sustainable consumption and production is also very important. And this helps in growing our circular economy. And finally, we are really open for partnerships. So how do we build stronger partnerships? As goal number 17 says, it is one of the key enablers and the key goals to really empower and enable the rest of the goals within the SDGs. And we want to ensure that we're working with countries to support countries and to support the kingdom in achieving its goals through enhanced ability to set agendas for the future. So what is coming after SDGs? How can we be part of the shapers of this agenda is what we aim to also become. How can we increase our presence in international forums? Because our voice is important and every single voice is important to shape the way forward. And if we're taking action, we know much more and we know better to facilitate conversations on a global lens and a global level. Some of the achievements that already took place since we established the Sustainable Development Steering Committee, we have worked on multiple projects that really had a huge impact on sustainability. And we also partnered with a lot of global experts and international organizations to facilitate learning within the kingdom and to really support us in achieving the SDGs. So as I mentioned, more than 150 actionable initiatives that were already drafted and starting to take place. We were able to improve our SDG index, our performance on the SDGs through monitoring and reporting, through providing accurate and quality data in a timely manner. We created webinars around the importance of data, the importance of reporting in a timely manner as well. As you know, there's a lot of challenges that can hinder this process, but we were able to learn how to work with international organizations to really reflect the kingdom's actual performance globally, so we can be assessed properly. We do partner with national stakeholders like Tadawul and CMA. KAUST is one of our key partners. We sign MOU agreements to define specific scope of work that we can translate into actions and make sure that we're critically building a path that supports sustainable development. From a lens of corporate sustainability, which is important because it's one of our key agendas, we worked on an ESG strategy that helps improve our corporates' performance, as well as understanding how can they incorporate and adopt sustainability measures for more FDI, for more competitiveness, and for companies to become resilient on a long-term perspective and ensure that they're generating the right financials with this approach. And this takes me to the slide where we really talk about the role of academia and students and how important it is in shaping our agenda and also contributing to SDGs. So each and every one of us has a key role to play, and it's really important to understand how can we contribute to achieve these goals, because it's a complex agenda and it has multiple challenges that needs to be addressed. And through the Ministry of Economy and Planning, we try to enable all types of stakeholders to take their role. And this is taken by the UN. So there is multiple things. There is the research that universities do to feed into policy. So what kind of things that are we not considering part of the current policy landscape of the kingdom? How can research and development feed into shaping the new policies is very important. So for example, if we took renewable energy as a topic, or the arid climate that we live in, how can we better sustain or ensure that farmers are enabled with the right tools and innovation to really flourish in our production of goods? And this is very important, from universities to really work on. Pick a specific topic, create a research paper, an article, publish it. Make sure that your voice is heard through the knowledge that you're sharing by the importance of this critical challenge. And then education also plays a very important role. Create communities to discuss the importance of sustainability. Talk to other universities, to more students, to your faculty, to educate people on the real challenge that is coming our way. Today, no one sees it. No one really feels it. We do feel that the weather is getting hotter, but we don't really understand that this is a critical challenge on a long term for our future generation. So how can you support in sharing awareness and spreading the importance of SDGs is also a critical role that you need to play. Partnership and outreach is also important. Be engaged in government discussions and policy development. COP28, G20, they all have communities that they built where they gave an opportunity for the youth and for the students, for the universities to have a voice. Academia is being empowered by the kingdom today. We've established multiple research and development institutions that also supports in ensuring that universities are empowered and the research is actually being developed accurately to feed into policy making as well. So the government relies on everyone else to take a role that is very important to the way that we shape our future. And through this, I wanted to share a success story of one of the key partnerships that we have with the universities, which is MEP and KAUST MOU. And this shows our commitment in really addressing the critical issues of climate change and environment and the economy. So we built this MOU based on a specific scope of work. We really wanted to focus on the environmental issues. So we selected 7 goals from the SDGs to work together with the research, with the scientists and the research institutions within the university to feed into the work that is being done under the Sustainable Development Steering Committee. And the way that we have done it, so through our working groups, we were able to define where we stand. And we shared our policy notes with the university to review and make sure if we're missing out on critical issues that needs to be considered based on the research that was conducted by the students, by the researchers and the scientists. So this goes back to the role that universities and students can play when it comes to the broader agenda of achieving sustainability. And really this consultation process is key to the way that we're developing, from a government perspective, the right policies that we need to develop for our future. And the areas of collaboration in specific are really looking at how can we advance SDGs in the kingdom? How can we improve our performance? How can we produce better policies and ensure coherence through tackling issues that are related to climate and environmental sustainability, and focus also on specific climate and living conditions and related to either climate solutions, desert agriculture, or low carbon fuels. And I believe this is part of the scope of work of the university, and there is multiple researchers and scientists that can feed into this. And maybe finally, if you also wanted to look at more of the efforts that are happening today and the alignment with the Vision 2030, I highly recommend that you have a look at the Voluntary National Review, because the way that we approached this report this year was different. It's actually considered as a best practice to other countries, because we contributed with 150 entities, and it's the public sector, the private sector, the NGOs, the academia, and the international organizations that are based in Saudi Arabia. So we wanted to bring in everyone together to share their success stories, their case studies, their initiatives, to show this holistic picture and view of where does the kingdom stand today when it comes to achieving the sustainable development goals. And I highly recommend that you have a look. There are multiple case studies. It's unfortunate that we were limited with short stories, but in reality, we received more than 200 case studies from all types of stakeholders. We had an expert that was working with us on developing this report, and he worked with other countries on developing their VNR as well. And I remember his comment up until today, where he mentioned that usually in other countries, I'm finding it difficult to find information. But in the case of Saudi Arabia, I'm finding it difficult to select from the number of case studies and stories that we have to share around our sustainability efforts. And it's a very good example of how all types are contributing to sustainable development and translating the Vision 2030 into action from a sustainability lens. And of course, as it happens on a national level, there is the lens of local level. We've also, through Al Medina City or Al Medina Authority, a development authority, they've reported on their own voluntary local review, which highlights how Al Medina is really building a sustainable future for the city. So it's important that we take this national lens, local lens, and then a global view of where we stand. And I would like to end my presentation here, but I hope this was a fruitful discussion and you can take away some of the key things that I presented today, especially on the role of universities and students, and how we should believe that the Vision 2030 is the right path for the kingdom, and its cornerstone is sustainability, and stakeholder and partnerships is key to achieving where we want to be in the future.